Following the order of information in a reference entry, we're moving on to the date element. Again, I can't cover every possible situation, so looking in the manual and on the APA style website will be necessary. The APA date element should always begin with the 4-digit year, and often that is enough, particularly with academic journal articles. However, if a more specific date is present, you should include the month, day, or season. With print works like books, journal articles, or news works, the date should be relatively easy to find because there is some standardization in how they are published. Dates from online works are sometimes a little bit more difficult to find, but posted or updated dates should be used rather than a copyright date. We'll look at examples of both in a little bit. APA provides some specific formatting for information from less common works like unpublished works, preprints, and older works with approximate dates, so check the manual for those. Because the reference entry contains the most complete and unambiguous data about a work, you need to add some notation to clear up any possible points of confusion. When you are using multiple works created by the same author in the same year, add a lowercase letter to the date following either the chronological order of earliest to latest or the alphabetical order of the titles in the reference list. This lowercase letter will be used in in-text citations so that it is clear to the reader which reference is being cited. If no date can be determined, as a last resort, you can use the N.D. notation to stand for no date. Retrieval dates are technically part of the source element, but they should be mentioned here as well. APA states that you should include retrieval dates for web pages that are designed to change over time, specifically the UpToDate database and Google Maps, and also web pages that have no date. However, in light of recent actions taken by the Trump administration on many government websites, I'm of the opinion that we should use retrieval dates on most U.S. government websites and really any website going forward, though tools like the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine have been helpful in tracking down archived versions of web pages. Retrieval dates are placed just before the final URL or DOI in the source element. They should include the word retrieved and note the specific date you first accessed the work. Let's take a look at some examples of date elements in a published reference list. On this reference list, note that most of the dates are simply years. There are a few that have additional months and days included, and take a look at the duet entries that include a lowercase letter to help with ambiguity because both were published in 2011. This lowercase letter is also included in the in-text citation on page 442. Now let's look at some dates on published works. We're going to start with an academic journal article, and typically you will see multiple dates on academic journal articles, typically an accepted date and a published date, possibly multiple published dates. In this case, we do see an accepted date, but for the references, we want to focus on when it was published. So we're going to use that August 2024 date. Now, because there is a month and a date and a year, you should typically use all that, but for most academic journal articles, you can really just get away with August of 2024. And again, on PDF versions of this, they typically tend to be the dates tend to typically be towards the top around where your author and title are, and often you can even see a suggested citation for the paper as well. If you are finding that article through either the library's quick search or one of the databases, again, the date tends to be kind of grouped together with all the other bibliographic information that you need. In this case, we see that it's only being listed as August of 2020, or actually it's listed as September of 2024. However, if we go to look at the article on the actual journal's page, we see that it is listed and published as August 2024. So it's possible that this article was put out in print in September instead of August on the online version. So this is often why we just see kind of a year when it comes to journal articles like this. For physical books, we are going to use the copyright date. So typically the copyright date is not on the title page of a book like this. Instead, it's usually on the reverse of the title page, and we're going to be using the copyright date that's up towards the top, and typically it's going to be the most recent if there are multiple editions. With online sources. Dates are sometimes often a little difficult to find. Some organizations like the Pew Research Center and some news organizations are going to be much better about showing you their date. So in this case, we see that there is a date listed for this specific report up here that we can use. And if we actually look at the PDF, the downloadable version of this report, you can also see that it is repeated up at the top of the page here. On news sites, you really need to include both the day and the month. Now, with the AP site here, we see a title, and then if we scroll down a little bit, again, next to that author's name, we're going to see an updated time stamp as well as a month, day, and year notation. And so we would use that, the month, day, and the year as part of our date for this reference. We don't necessarily need to worry about the time that was updated or posted at all. We don't need to be that specific. For social media and other types of really multimedia content, we're going to need to, again, be as more specific. Now, sometimes you don't necessarily see the original date here. So if we look at the Vlogbrothers site here, we'll see that it says 6 months ago, and if we hover over it, we can actually see that it was published on January 28th, 2025. So again, we need to find and kind of investigate a little bit more to see exactly when this was, and not just put down 6 months ago, right? That's not specific enough here. Not all web pages will have the date prominently displayed. Okay, so on this page from the APA style site, we notice that there's a title up here, but again, there's no individual author, so there's nothing that's kind of grouping all this information together. However, a good place to check for a lot of dates is going to be towards the bottom of the page. So down at the bottom, we're going to see kind of a grouping of multiple dates. We see a last updated date, we see a date created, and then we also see a copyright date down below. Now, APA specifically says don't use copyright dates that kind of come in the footer of websites, because it's unlikely that that copyright date actually reflects when the entire website, every single web page was published, right? So either look for a published date or a last updated date, and again, use the most recent of those. So in this case, we would use this October 2024 date. Finally, there might be pages that have no date besides that copyright. So again, there's nothing up at the top here on this HUD page. And again, as we scroll through, we don't really see any kind of publishing dates, anything like that. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, I don't really even see a copyright date. Okay, so this is a case where I would definitely use the n.d. notation for no date. This is also where I would definitely use a retrieval date. I might even use a retrieval date on the APA style page here, but they are also really good about telling you when something was updated versus this government page where there is no updated date or any other kind of indication of when this page was last touched. So this is definitely a case where I need that retrieval date. Thank you for watching. Please see the other videos in this series for more APA content.